Welcome to Here Where You Belong, your go-to podcast for exploring belonging with your host and belonging expert, Dia Irby. We are thrilled to have you join us. Together, we'll dive into the depths of what it means for each of us to find our own place in the world, whether it's within our communities, our relationships, or within ourselves. Today's episode is meant to inspire, uplift, and remind you that no matter where you are or where you're headed, you have a place where you truly belong. So, grab a cozy spot and settle in. Welcome to Here Where You Belong.
Hello, awesome belongers. Welcome home to Here Where You Belong podcast. Today, I am so excited to introduce you to someone whose message is so aligned. There's no question that they found their place here to share their stories. I'm Dia, your host. Our guest today could fly a plane before he could drive a car. What? There's the story. Get ready to be inspired and blessed. Let's welcome Matt Drago. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Dia. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, here's a bit more about our guest. Matt Drago is an actor living in Los Angeles. He's best known for his role as Fabian in Somewhere in Montana, which is an amazing movie. He has appeared in a variety of other projects, including Disney's Counting Scars viral video, What Would Jesus Do? The Journey Continues, Ridley Scott's Prophets of Science Fiction. What a variety of genres. And the popular audio drama podcast, No Other Way. He also has his own production company, which is currently in development on its first feature film. Outside of performing, which sounds like it keeps him pretty busy, Matt enjoys karate. He's a 4th-degree black belt. Don't mess with him. He's a scuba diver and an avid sports fan. He is represented by HRI Talent, Ignite Talent Management, and is a proud member of SAG and AFTRA and Actors Equity. Whew! Matt, did I leave anything out or do you need to correct anything?
No, you got it all right, Dia. That was fantastic. Thank you so much.
What an honor to have you here.
Honor to be here.
So you know that this is a podcast about belonging, and I asked my guests to share their belonging story. Now, maybe you didn't have belonging and you found it, you had it, you lost it, you found it again, or you've always felt like you belonged, or you've created a community of belonging for other people. Wherever that is and however you want to take us on this journey, the mic is yours. Go for it.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, I feel like early on in this life, I knew what I wanted to do. I loved telling stories. I grew up as a child of humble beginnings in rural Virginia, and very early on got on the stage in the local theaters, and from that met people that I felt like I belonged with, and I really felt like they were my tribe, my people. I felt safe with them. I felt like we aligned. I felt like we vibed. So there's a lot of that really goes into this path that I've taken in being an artist and being a storyteller. I grew up, like I said, doing theater. There wasn't much film and TV in Virginia at the time. And so I found myself being on stage whenever and wherever I could. One of my first paying gigs was at Riverside Dinner Theater in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And it was the first opportunity I got to get paid for what I love to do. And it was very, humbling, because dinner theater, for your listeners, is when you're on center stage, singing your ballad and doing your dance routine and acting and having a great time. But then you get off stage and you're, clearing plates and refilling drinks. So I think very early on, I realized that the process of being an artist and being an actor and being a dreamer was going to mean that I needed to work for it. And that means being able to fight for it. And I always say that dreamers are fighters. Don't sleep on dreamers. Like, we are the ultimate fighters because we'll do what it takes to keep the dream alive. And so it was a really great experience for me. I met some really wonderful people along the way, and it just kind of perpetuated me to the next step where I moved to New York City and continued to be around even more people, right, that, aligned with me and made me feel like I belonged. I would be at Actors Equity, which is a building on 46th Street where you can just go and sing your 16 or 32 bars and just be around actors all day. When I wasn't, taking a shift at the bar or, working at the library for, because I went to Marymount Manhattan College, I did a little work study program there. I was out and about, like, just trying to connect with people to, again, make me feel more like I belonged in the place that I did. And, I was very lucky because I've always been a grandma's boy. And when I moved back to New York City, I got to live with my grandma through college. And I think that really grounded me in a way because it's like I got to come home every day. It wasn't just that I was, a free spirit in a big city. Like I had a home to come to. I had someone that I loved that I felt accountable to, and she felt accountable to me. And we just loved each other because, again, she just protected me from the big city and all the things that go along with it. So that was part of my journey. And then I took an acting class in Chelsea. We were talking about this before. I was paired in a 12-person acting class with a girl. Found out that we had the same area code, 540 in Virginia. She came over to my apartment to rehearse, and we're recording this on Valentine's Day, so it's a sweet episode to talk about. We were paired together in a breakup scene from Say Anything, the John Cusack movie. And it just occurred to me as I was like looking through the scene. I grabbed the paper that had her phone number and I said, "Hey, I have a 540 area code. Where are you from in Virginia?" And she looked at me and she said, "Front Royal." And I looked at her and I said, "I'm from Front Royal." And she was like, "No way." I mean, at the time, I mean, like we didn't even have a Starbucks in that town. That's how small it was. And I was like, my dad's the karate guy across from the Main Street Cinema, and I know this person, I know this person. And I said, "Well, what does your family do?" And she said, "My family owns the Apple House, which is a small little Virginia country store that you would only know if you lived in the area." And I pointed to my dresser on 79th and Broadway in New York City. And I said, "Look at my dresser. There were three things from the Apple House with the price tag still on them." So I always
My goodness.
jokingly, yeah, right. I always jokingly say in that moment, I looked at Laura and I said, "Well, we've already gotten the breakup out of the way. Are you ready to go out on a date?" And so that's how we started dating, and that's how we became really a team in this creative journey together. I've never aligned with someone more than I have with her because we come from the same beginnings, the same town, but we both wanted the same things. We wanted the same dream. So it was the perfect fit for us to align, meet each other, and then go out to LA together, which is where we are to this day.
I love that story. You know what I really think is so important that you touched on is the belonging of your roots with your grandmother. How many people that you crossed paths with in New York had that advantage?
Not any that I know.
Right. And this is like, who doesn't? I mean, there's so many. I don't even know what percentage it is of people that want to grow up and be in the movies or whatever. Uh, But it's a really hard industry to break into, to actually find how to belong in that industry. Or that's the impression I have. Do you agree with that?
Yes and no. I mean, I think that every industry has its challenges. I think that it's all about relationships. We both work in real estate too, so we know that it's relationship building. And for me, I really do. I try to love the journey. I say this all the time. The journey is the destination. The journey is the destination, and it really does. That always resonates with me because then you don't put that pressure on yourself of the outcome. When you're in your 20s, I think things maybe are a little bit more transactional where you're trying to impress your agents, your managers, you're trying to get in the da 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 da. And then I think as you evolve a little bit more in your life, you realize that like it's just it's a blessing to be alive. It's a blessing to get to do what you want to do. And I think when you start to really enjoy that part of it, you become a beacon of light and you start to attract people because you become more than just an actor. You become a collaborator. You become somebody that really wants to dive deep into somebody else's story, like we'll talk about with Somewhere in Montana. Just an extraordinary experience, but it was that that persona that I think I gave off because it's where I am right now in my life, where it just attracted, Brandon Smith, the writer, director, Eden Matson, the producer, to me and to what I felt like I could do with the role. And then I do think that there's part of it too, where you just really have to enjoy, auditioning. As crazy as that sounds, I tell this to actors all the time, like, you love acting, right? Well, if you love acting, then you should love auditioning because this is your chance to act today. And, even if there's not an audience, even if you're not on set with other actors, it's an opportunity for you to dive into a character and see what you would do uniquely with that character. Because you have to remember, Dia, that you can only, or you can bring something unique to the character that nobody else can. And so you give yourself that power within that. If you can really think about, like, what your process is. And, we can dive deep into my actor process because everybody's process is a little bit different. But when I think about my process, I love writing backstories. I love diving deep into the behavior of the character because a lot of the stuff that goes into acting is off of the lines. It's in between the lines. It's the behavior of the character. It's how the character holds himself. And so when I do all these backstories, it gives me the foundation to come to set and be around other great artists and other great stories. And then the magic happens. You can just say the words, be with each other, and you don't even know what's going to happen. And I think that's the beauty of acting and storytelling.
I love that. That's so true. Each person may have the same lines, but you're being you in that character, which makes it a different, or a depth to the character. Did you have a particular, or maybe you had a number of mentors that helped you get to where you are?
You always do. I always say that this is a team sport. You are nothing without the sum of your parts. And you realize that more and more throughout your journey. You had mentioned my agent and my managers now, like they keep me in my lane so I can be creative. They deal with the business part, and that's what they want. They want me to be creative so that they can take care of the business part. Well, early on, it was my acting teachers. Those are the people that shaped me. Those are the people that guided me. I always sought acting teachers, both in college and out of college, that loved it out of me. I never liked the acting teacher that needed to break you down to build you back up. That never made sense to me. I liked people that really could nurture you and create a safe space and a safe environment for you to thrive in. That's really what gravitated towards me, being in their class and learning from them and really being there with them and trusting them, right? So Kevin Connell at Marymount Manhattan College, just again, just a lover of actors. Actually, I have a line in the movie somewhere in Montana, and it's something that Kevin used to say to me, and it just happened to be written. And I channeled him in that moment because whenever we did something that felt like a breakthrough in his little 12-person class on 71st between 2nd and 3rd Avenue, he'd come to me and, he'd grab my shoulders or he'd look right at me very intensely and he'd just be like, good, good, good.
Oh,
Like just really just like really proud of me, and like that really resonated with me. I just really I'm just such a fan of him because he is an actor as well, and so he really understood the journey, but he wanted to give back in a way that was teaching, and now he's a tenured professor over at Marymount Manhattan College. So that was my in-school experience. I really gravitated towards him. I did Richard II, a play that he directed there. And we just always jived with each other. I just think he's a very special person. And it just really goes back to his nurturing and love of actors. And then outside of college, I found T. Schreiber Studios, where I met Laura, my wife. And I actually studied with Terry Schreiber for about 2.5 years. And he honestly, Dia, became a grandfather to me. He was like one of those people that like could tell me something that I needed to hear, whether it was, kind of career driven or just something that he felt like could unlock my process a little bit more. And I think what was so special about Terry is because he had been around so many years, and had so many different methodologies that he had learned in his practice, whether it be Stanislavski or Strasberg or Meisner. He would kind of give them all to you. And I mean that, like give them all to you. And it was kind of what you as a person and an actor really gravitated towards more to adopt them within your own process. And so I think that's kind of what made his very special class of 12 people, because it was, again, a very, very small, hard class to get into. But once you got in, you stayed there because he would unlock things in you that you didn't even know you could unlock in yourself. And it was a meeting that I take to heart all the time, where, I had been up for a lot of Broadway, roles on Broadway, whether it be Frankie Valli and Jersey Boys, or Tarzan, or Into the Woods, or Avenue Q, Wicked. I was up for a lot of like Broadway roles, and as a singer, and I got down to a lot of times like the final callbacks, and sometimes I'd miss out to somebody that had like a TV film credit. A lot of times, other times there were times where it might be a reality show personality, somebody that would kind of get butts in the seats, and that's when I started to understand the business part of it a little bit more, right? Because unfortunately there was a hierarchy. I remember actually being in a final callback for Avenue Q, and it actually was between me and a friend of mine that I knew from the gym, and he was another theater actor, and I this has kind of always been my mentality. I remember looking at him right before I went. He went in the room. He went in first, and then I did. He went in the room first, and I looked at him, and I said, "Hey, I'm really glad that one of us is going to get this." And I really meant that, because it was really a moment for me that was like, he's a theater actor. He's been, busting his butt, like fighting for his dream. He's done the exact same thing that I've done. He's not being given the role. He's going to earn it. Like, and so I was really happy that he got the role. But I felt like for me, New York was kind of taking a toll on me at certain points. And, I had met Laura, and we decided one cold winter's day after the holidays, because you got to spend the holidays with the Italian family, to just pack up the car and give LA a shot. And that was based on that conversation where Terry brought me in and he said, Matt, I love having you in class. I don't want you to get discouraged. You're on the brink of something. I believe in you. All the things that you want to hear from like a grandfather, you can understand. I mean, I get emotional just thinking about him, because he is such a just a just so vulnerable, such a in touch with humanity, human being, just a beautiful soul. And he said, why don't you give LA a shot? I think that film and TV could be a great medium for you. So I told that to Laura that night, and she was ready to pack. She's ready for some sunshine, and we did. We took a little kumbaya trip across the country. We, hit all the little spots that we wanted to, including the Grand Canyon. We got out here in January. It was in the mid 80s, and it was just like, oh my God, this is incredible.
Cool.
And we really didn't look back at that point. But so to answer your question, yeah, it's all about the people that are around you. It's all about the relationships. It's people that matter in life, not things. It's people. It's not ideologies. It's people. It always will be. And so I think about all the people that I've collected in my life. I think back to, my best friends, my group of friends back in Virginia, Alyssa, Dwayne, Tyler, Joey, Katie, like all these people, like they're my core. They're the people that have lifted me up when I've been down. So I think about that. I think about my wife, and I think about all the people that I've collected along the way. And that's what brought me to where I am today.
I love that. Do you feel like that there's somebody in your life that you are mentoring, that you are taking the other role?
Yeah, I'm starting to do that a little bit more actually ever since this film. There's a couple people, Jolie Canava, who's a family friend that wanted to get into acting, and my wife and I went to lunch with her mom and dad, who are like close family friends. Like we've known the family for a long time. They're basically like Dragos, because like we kind of adopted them within our family. So Tiffany, DJ, and Jolie all we went out with Laura and I, and we had a great lunch, and I could see like her in both of us, because she's just starting this journey, and just the passion and the love that she has for it. And I literally looked at her at one point and I said, never lose that. Never, ever lose that. Like, never lose that childlike love of the craft of acting. Never lose the love of storytelling. Like, that's your power. Like, that is what, will give you the duration. When you have to assume highs and lows in this industry. Never get too high, never get too low. Love things outside of acting. For me, it's sports, right? For me, it's karate, scuba diving. If I'm on a Caribbean island, like I'll get my 2 dives in a day. But whatever it is for you that gives you balance, right? You have to figure out whatever it is that gives you balance. And so there's another girl that I've been helping out a little bit, Rowan Cooper, who is a writer and an actress, and she's sending out submission letters. And again, you have to kind of compartmentalize the two different worlds, because part of it is, your love of acting. But for a lot of agents and managers that don't know you and you're asking them to represent you, it's got to be short and sweet. You have to, look at it like you are a commodity. You can't come about sometimes like you are so in love with it, and you like they don't know you, and frankly, like, as a business vocation, it's like they don't care about you yet, right? So lead from the power position, like lead from, and we know this as realtors, right? It's like you almost have to look at it like, just what is it that I'm pitching in my offer that's going to get my offer accepted? It's no different than with an agent, right? It's the same kind of mentality. And I think sometimes that's a really good thing that's given me balance, is being a realtor and an actor, because I can see it from the other side. I can see what my agents are doing for me creative. I can see what my managers are doing for me creatively. Like, I can understand it a little bit more. And so I can impart that to actors that want to tell people how much they love it and how excited they are. Well, they don't have to, because the reality is you want to just be like, here's my work. Here's what I do as an actor. And if you throw that out there over and over again, it puts you in, like I said, that more power position, that more professional position, where you don't have to say, oh, like, because if you go too much into the emotions of it, sometimes you're selling yourself short. You want to really, be proud of yourself, be proud of your work. No matter what part of your career you're in, be proud of what you do, whether it's a self-tape or an audition or whatever it is. Like, be proud of where you are. So I helped her out recently, and there was a longer email that I helped edit down for her, and that's the one to send out, because again, all you need is one or two people on your team that truly believe in you and align with you, and most importantly, will fight for you. Because I have been down this road before. You don't want to be with representatives like you would be with a realtor, right? That aren't looking out for you. It's no different.
Absolutely. Oh, this is so good. So good. And we're going to take a quick break and come back for so much more with Matt Drago. We'll be back after this short message. Hey there. Isn't my guest amazing? So glad you joined us today. In this world that often feels disconnected, building community and fostering belonging are essential. That's why I created this podcast, to bring inspiring people to you, to encourage you to create that sense of belonging and community, no matter where you are. If you're being blessed by my guest, and we have some more, like, subscribe, and share this podcast. You know who needs to hear this. Stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember, you belong. Now, back to our amazing guest. And we're back on Here Where You Belong with our guest today, Matt Drago. And if you're a listener, belonger, you know I like to ask 3 questions to dig in to my guest. And the first one, I like to hear what they consider is their greatest accomplishment. I mean, you've got so many accomplishments, Matt. What are you going to pick? What is your greatest accomplishment?
I'd say perseverance. There's a lot of challenges that I've had in my career. Like I said, a lot of lows, to be perfectly honest. And honestly, that is one thing that I feel like I've gleaned a lot of from my wife. Because she has that same type of perseverance. An actress, now she's a writer. So she's reinvented herself. So I take tremendous pride, and I'm in awe of her, honestly. And that's a pretty cool place to be, especially since we have a production company together now. Her maiden name, by the way, is Hunter and Drago. So Dragon Hunter Productions, Drago and Hunter Productions, kind of worked out, right? So yeah,
that is really cool.
pretty cool, right? That just kind of worked out. But yeah, perseverance. And again, that like takes all shapes and forms sometimes. Like, sometimes you do need to go to a baseball game. You need to like do a karate class. You need to get outside of yourself. Like, again, you have to understand as an artist that it's work. What a lot of actors do day in, day out are really long days on set or in the theater. And, I do say this all the time, but, acting is outward facing. We see a lot of the posts, a lot of the award shows, a lot of the red carpets on social media, and that's all great. Like, who isn't going to get dressed up with their beautiful wife and go to a fun event, right? But at the same time, that's not why any of us got into it. We got into it because we wanted to leave a couple really impactful stories behind, things that we felt like could resonate with people. That's why I got into it. And so I think that my perseverance has taken all different shapes and forms. When I moved out to LA, I didn't have a job, right? I'd done real estate, but I was kind of starting all over again. So my wife found, TaskRabbit, which is basically like doing chores for people. I became the top TaskRabbit in LA, helping people clean their houses, organize their closets, do their backyard work. And most people wouldn't even bring that out in an interview, but I'm proud of it because it shows that I was willing to fight for it. I was willing to work for it. So I take pride in being the top worker on this website because it got me to the point where then I got a good restaurant job and then I worked, 6 days a week on that. And now I'm a real estate agent, so it's like whatever keeps the dream alive. Um, Take pride of that. Like that's a big thing. There are not a lot of people that take on two careers or multiple jobs to, put food on the table, to, keep things alive. If that is like, something that you have to do to keep the dream alive, be proud of that. Like that's something to take a massive amount of pride in. And I do all the time because I think it brought me to where I am today. And I mean, good things happen sometimes in ways that you don't expect, which is actually another great segue to how I booked somewhere in Montana. It was because of that restaurant job that I had in Valencia. I've always been about trying to pay it forward if I can. I had been with an agent for a long time at that point. We had a good relationship, and I had a friend, Zuzu Weingart, who worked at the restaurant with me, and she needed an agent. And at that point, I felt like I could, refer her because I had a good relationship with him and because I had, gone on a lot of auditions and booked and stuff like that. And so I, got her to send her stuff over to him and she got the agent, which was great. And then a couple years later, her and her husband Kyle decided to move back to Montana. And they started their own production company. They've got 3 kids now. It just felt like they wanted to move back home, which was awesome. And then a couple years later, I heard from her and she called me up out of the blue. And it's like that, kind of gift of returns, right? It's like you give and sometimes you receive back, but it's always better to give in life. I always believe that. And she called me up and she said, "Hey, my friend Brandon wrote this script, and every time I read one of the lead characters, I see your face." And it was just really humbling. I get, a little bit, choked up even thinking about it now because it was a friend looking out for a friend. And so when she told me that, I instantly piqued my curiosity because I'm an actor. And I said, "Well, can you send it to me? Is there a way that I can put myself on tape?" She got me all the stuff that I needed to do that. And I went down to my acting teacher, and ran the scene a bunch, worked on the character as we've kind of discussed, doing my backstories. Unbeknownst to even my acting teacher at that point, I had read the script 3 times before I even put myself on tape. I just fell in love with the character. I fell in love with the story. It felt like something I've always wanted to do and be as an actor, is to tell very impactful stories, especially in the times that we're in. And this story can really do that. And so I did. I put it on tape, and I only put it on tape once. I only took one take, and that's rare because I mean now you can do it 20, 30, 50 times if
Right.
you want to,
Exactly.
right? And
Well,
I
tell
just
us
did it.
more about the character and what you feel like you individually brought to the character, the role that you have.
Yeah, I think it really stemmed from, my need and want to be in a story like this. And the producer session that I did was that. It was a curiosity thing. I was with the writer and the director, Brandon Smith. I was with the producer, Eden Matson, and I just found myself asking questions about the character, about this story of two different worlds. The LA director meets the Montana rancher. And it was a really cool moment where, a couple weeks passed by after the producer session. I got the call, and I always say this, like I had been granted the role, which meant a lot to me. But I remember hanging up the phone, and the first thing that came to mind when I hung up the phone was like, "Okay, Matt, it's time to get to work." And that's when, the work started on this big story. So the story is about Me, I play Fabian Verdugo. He's a filmmaker and a proud filmmaker and a passionate filmmaker and somebody that will fight for his people, his family, his cast and crew are people that he looks out for and he loves like family. And you know, he is essentially running against the clock. He's in a vulnerable state because the investors are about to pull a lot of the money for the film, and you know, he can barely afford some of the actors, and he's, you know, trying to find that last location because again, for filmmakers, like this is their legacy. So like every part of it has to be just perfect. So that's his struggle. John Alexander, played by my friend Graham McTavish, is the Montana rancher that is also up against the clock, unbeknownst to Fabian at the time, because his ranch is on life support. He's getting, you know, mail from the bank every week, and he can't afford to pay the bills essentially. And you know, this is his legacy, and it's been in his family for generations and generations. And you know, obviously, he doesn't want to see it fail. He wants to, you know, hopefully carry it on to the next generation. It's something that he takes a lot of pride in. So this film really goes deep into a legacy, American legacy, and honoring each other's legacy. And so, you know, in short, Brandon writes a masterpiece where these two characters need each other, even though they're from two different worlds, even though they're vastly different in their political and social beliefs. They are thrust in a situation that they have to get themselves out of. And we butt heads right away because we're two different people. We don't see eye to eye. And throughout the course of the movie, we, you know, try to find ways to navigate finding mutual respect for each other, which in my life has been the highest form of love, is when someone really has respect for you, like they love you. And so, you know, it's a real deep dive into a lot of the social and political issues that we're dealing with right now. But it also dives deep into a path forward and how to find mutual respect for each other. Because if Fabian Verdugo and John Alexander can do it in this movie, then there's hope for all of us.
Yeah, if you can learn to belong in the same world,
Yeah.
bringing it back around to belong. And I can totally imagine how much depth you could bring to the character coming from the world that you came from. And oh, Montana is gorgeous. And this is, where do people find the movie to see it? Is it online? Is it in theaters? Where is it?
So it got a limited theatrical release on January 10th. We're waiting to hear for an expansion pack, basically to come to more theaters. Eventually, it will go to streaming and VOD. I will be posting all of my updates on social media. If you want to give me a follow at Matt Drago, Mattdrago. I'll post when it goes to VOD, when it goes to streaming. On my Instagram, you've got my link tree. It's got my both my websites, mattdrago.com for my acting, dragonhunterproductions.com for my production company. It's also got my IMDb if you want to check out my past and future projects, and all my other social media platforms. But I really only stick to one. So find me on Instagram at Matt Drago and give me a follow there.
Wow. Okay. Well, you're doing it, and your perseverance and everything you're saying, it's coming out, and I'm hearing it. Would you say this is your favorite role that you've ever had, or do you have a favorite role?
Dia, not even just the favorite role of my lifetime. Like, this is the first character that I've ever fallen in love with. I love Fabian. And I feel like I've adopted parts of him into my own life. You know, Fabian is, like I said, he's a fighter. He's a perseverer. He's somebody that wants to belong. And so for me, I resonated with him from the second that I picked up the script and read it, because I really felt like I got him. And that's why, again, sometimes like you don't even know why a role is meant to find you. But you know, there's a classic quote that my wife actually wrote in a letter the day that I opened it up. I was actually on set. She hid it in my bag. It was so sweet, and I'm gonna butcher the quote, but it made me cry, like literally bawl in the moment, because you know, she basically said like, you've earned this. Like, you know, the roles that are meant to find you always will. Essentially, is the gist of it. And it feels like one of those things where, you know, I didn't even realize like how much like Fabian and I were aligned with each other. And you know, it's
That's
kind of,
why the person said every time she read it, she saw your face.
yeah. Yeah. And
Because
that's a friend. Yeah, a friend looking out
your
and
friend.
understand. what you give off. You know, there's some really great acting teachers along the way. Sam Christensen actually called it your myth. You know, what you give off as an actor that's uniquely yours, you know, and my myth is the gift of returns. And so apparently, you know, the gift of returns came back to me for this really special role. And I think Brandon and everybody on set realized just how grateful I was to be telling this great story. And it really just made the relationships just come together because we all became a family on set. I feel like we all needed this film. And, you know, Graham and I would have these wonderful conversations. Michelle Hurd and I would have these wonderful conversations. Like, we're all friends. We can't get enough of each other. Like, when we get to go to a premiere, it's like the family's back together, you know, because we'd go to meals together. We go on hikes together. Like, we would spend all our time together. And I really feel like that's sort of what made this film so special. I say this all the time, but I feel like I've already won being part of this film, just because of the experience it gave me, the fuel that it gave me to continue my dreams, and something that Fabian taught me, which is that a lot of our society right now, I feel like, is yearning for stories to be told about their little pockets of the world. And that's what my production company aims to do, is that we want to bring productions to small markets of the country and tell their stories, because if people can feel heard, hopefully we can start to you know, move forward and start to align a little bit more in this country.
Yes, it makes people feel like they belong if they've been seen or heard.
Absolutely.
And I asked the question, what makes you feel like you belong? And it sounds like being, or you answered artist. This was a situation where you definitely found a family and that you belonged. I think one idea that, and tell me if this is correct, that doing this craft is not about being in the spotlight, look at me, it's about communicating a story.
Yeah, I think I realized, you know, diving deep into Fabian Verdugo's psyche and doing all the work on that, and being on set with you know, just it's a small cast and crew. You know, when you're making an indie, it's the first time that I've ever had the experience of just being so proud of seeing those end credits and knowing everybody's name on them. You know, I think I've realized in this process that, you know, acting is and forever will be my first love, but even more so, I love being a collaborator. Like, I love collaborating with people, because what happens, and again, it goes back to the team element that we were talking about earlier, and that belonging. It's that you realize that you are a sum of the parts of, you know, these films, and that there's masters of craft around you. And that's what's so fascinating. It's like, I can't shoot that, you know, shot like AJ Young, our cinematographer, can. I can't gaff that light, you know, in the barn like Jason can. I can't get the sound just right like Travis can and Megan can. Like, I can't do the things that they can do. So it's always fascinating to be around these people that are masters of their own domain. And I think it all starts with the top. I give all the credit in the world to Brandon Smith, because he created this incredible ecosystem where we all felt like we belonged to this project. We belong to the story. It's a part of us now. It was all an ensemble. And that's really what was cool about it, is the cast and the crew were interchangeable. I have a scene in this film where I have like a complete mental breakdown, and everybody was so quiet on set for me that day. Like, they were part of it. And it's like, that's what resonates to the screen. You know, like, you know, what if you were around people that were cutting jokes or not, but they were with me? Like, everybody was with everybody at all times. And that's really what made this experience so uniquely special.
Respecting each other for what they're bringing to the table. It's sort of like the story I heard about the kids that had a clubhouse, and they put a big sign on the clubhouse that nobody act big, nobody act little, everybody act medium. So,
Mhm.
so in other words, you know, there's nobody deserves any more respect and nobody deserves any less respect. It's a collaborative effort, and that's what helps people feel like they belong. All right, next question, because I think we're moving these along pretty well. What is your favorite quote? And you can expound on it however you want.
Okay, well, I'll expound on it, because the person that that said it on the Broadway stage is a voice teacher of mine, a friend, Matt Castle. He was on the Broadway production of Company that was led by Raul Esparza. And I got to be in the front row, and I mean, my God, it's such an emotional show. Like it really is, because it is a show about belonging. If you've never seen it, go see it tonight, Dia. Like it's incredible. Because it is. It's this person that just, for better or worse, has just he's always alone. He never really finds his people, and he's got people around him, but he still doesn't feel like alive, and that's the big song, the big ballad is Being Alive. But my friend Matt Castle actually has a really wonderful quote that's always resonated with me because it takes a lot of the pressure off of the journey. And I think that's something that we all need to do sometimes. So I want all your listeners to hear this because it's something that has always resonated with me, and hopefully it'll resonate with them as well. Don't be afraid it won't be perfect. The only thing to be afraid of really is that it won't be.
Ooh, that is powerful. You don't want to get to the end of your life and have regrets. Why I never did so and so. Even if you do it and it's, well, I don't know how many things people can do that are perfect, but
Well, that's what it's saying. You can't.
yeah,
You
you
can't.
can't.
You can't. But what it's saying is don't worry about perfection because it can't be attained. So instead, be more concerned that what if it never happened? Because that's what you don't want. You want to go into an audition and you know that you maybe are striving for that perfection, but perfection is unattainable. But what you do is you give yourself the freedom to understand it doesn't have to be perfect because it exists now. You know what I mean? And I think that's like really what needs to go into everything that people do in their life, right? It's like it's never going to be perfect, but what happens if you literally just said, okay, well, if it's not perfect, it just doesn't exist?
That would be such a loss.
Exactly.
Right. That is a good quote. That's very wise, and it also would encourage someone to have, oh, your favorite word, perseverance. Because keep
100%.
on keeping on. Yes.
Yes, it does
Oh,
motivate you as well. It does. It gives you
right.
that ability to say, listen, I'm just going to keep, doing my auditions. I'm going to keep working. I'm going to keep grinding. I'm going to keep taking all the odds and ends jobs to get me to a moment where I'm here and I belong and I'm on your show right now and I'm talking about my story and it's all part of the journey. And so when you give yourself that freedom to do that, then things like this happen like today.
Yeah, I love that. So good. Well, this has been fabulous, Matt Drago. And is there, before we actually close, do you have any final parting words that you would like to share with the listeners?
Absolutely. Just continue to support human stories, continue to support indie films specifically. These are people that, are really sacrificing everything. Like they are, persevering. They are bringing their teams together. $10, $15 at the box office, if it comes near you, is worth a lot more to an indie film than it is for a big budget film. So, continue to support human stories because the more that you support human stories, the more you will see human stories. And now we're up against the clock with AI and things like that. And we really need to make sure that art remains human. I do say this. I think that if you give up art to a machine, you will lose so much in this society. And, we're just at the beginnings of AI, but we need to see real tears. We need to see real emotions. We need to see real people creating these real stories. And so, I'm a big proponent of that. That is something that like I am going to continue to fight for with my wife and my production company. So, definitely follow along with my journey and be part of the fight with me. And again, Dia, thank you so much for having me on your show. This has been a wonderful conversation that I'll always remember.
I love your story and thank you so much to our amazing guest, Matt Drago. Thank you.
Thanks
And
again.
to our listeners, belongers, stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember you belong. This is Dia Irby with Here Where You Belong podcast, signing off. Bye now.
Thanks for tuning in to Hear Where You Belong. We hope today's episode has inspired you to embrace the beauty of belonging in your own life. Remember, no matter where you are or where you're headed, you have a place where you truly belong. Join us again next time for more insightful conversations and heartwarming stories. Until then, stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember that you belong.